In 1.3, we're going to be working on some word problems, and so we always want to introduce this in algebra. We talked a little bit about it before. You know, these equations just aren't walking around the streets. Well, if you see one, solve it. But usually we have to apply it somehow in a real-world situation to be useful to us. So we show different problems where you might have something where you needed algebra to solve it. So it helps us answer that question, when am I ever going to use this? Okay, so we have some examples. They have some data and how they apply models and how they solve the problem and things like that. But first we're going to talk about an overall strategy for solving word problems. So they're going to give us a problem, and it's going to be in words, and sometimes they provide a graph. This author is very big on providing graphs. And the information is usually highly accurate and according to what they've provided, but usually it's pretty interesting stuff, but we're going to apply it with our algebra skills to be able to solve a particular problem. Okay, so step one, you're going to have to read the problem. Now, sometimes you have to read it several times, and you're going to have to read it once. First of all, get the general idea of what's going on. And if you don't understand the problem, what it's talking about or what it's going over, you need to go back and reread it. It might help to look at the picture or the chart. That might help you get more of an idea of what the problem's talking about. But you've got to kind of get your mind wrapped around what's going on in the situation. A second time when you read it, you're going to go through and you're going to find important information. So you're going to see that some of the word problems were really wordy, and the information wasn't really necessary, so I didn't always type everything. So you might want to even look in your textbook, the e-copy, and just see what the real problem looked like. I think the first one I typed everything out, but the second one I'm like, well, we don't need some of this information to solve the problem. So you're going to read and you're going to get, you want to locate, okay, now what's going to be really important for me to know? All right, second, and you may have to reread several times. Okay, that's okay. Don't try to just rush through it. A lot of times students do that. Oh, here's a number, write that down. It must be addition, and you know, they start just kind of guessing at it. And we don't want to do that. We want to wrap our mind around the problem and the situation to get a good equation eventually. All right. The second step, though, is to set up your variables. What do you know and what don't you know? What are you looking for? What's the unknown? Okay, what's your X if you want? Now, you don't have to use X. You can use other letters, but you know, you want to set up your variables so you know what you're putting things in terms of. Okay, eventually, we need an equation. Now, once you get that equation, then you're kind of not done with the word part, but you've got an equation that you can solve. That just goes back to our algebra steps, okay? We solve the equation, that's step 4. And then finally, we're going to check our answer. Now, we check our answer for certain things. Does our answer make sense? So what was a word problem I was doing yesterday? Oh, can I put negative, 20 microwaves on the truck? Well, no, that doesn't make any sense. Negative 20 microwaves, that doesn't make any sense. It might in some situations, but not if you're loading the truck. Okay, so does our answer make sense? Did I get an answer of 3.5 people, Well, again, it might depend on the context and what you're doing, but you're looking to see if it makes sense and if it seems reasonable. Does it seem like, if you're figuring out a cost of a textbook and it's like $2,000, well, maybe something went wrong with the decimal place. That probably isn't a reasonable answer. Okay. Anyway, those are the steps, the general strategy for solving a word problem. So I'm going to demonstrate this in examples for the rest of these videos, I think, for section 1.3. Okay.